24 hours later, it's still fuck him. All right, you white motherfuckers, all eyes on me. This is the I Refuse podcast. Now that I have your attention, I'm Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. You're getting yet another fine production on our YouTube page over here. Continue to support, follow, subscribe, and original black content creation. Produced and starring a black male in North America. I was over here minding my African American business and saw that the Baftas happened. And during the course of their production, a relatively 2-hour gala, many people presented, many people came out on stage, came and went, a lot of winners from different nationalities, different cultures, in the acting and directing world, right? At some point during the evening, for which there were a lot of people in the room with minor changes, when Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo got on stage to present somewhere around naming the nominees to announcing the winner, albeit brief moment, they were called the N-word from a person in the audience. Not an actor, not a director, a Scottish middle-aged white man who for half his life has been afflicted with a condition known as Tourette syndrome. Tourette syndrome is a condition that consists of a variety of tics, social tics, physical tics, where the person during the course of a conversation, or even if there isn't a conversation, is known to say some outlandish, absurd things that aren't targeted towards a specific person. They're just saying certain things, or they may express a stutter or a flurry of noises and then just come back to. We've seen this on a TLC show. We know that this exists. We get that. We are expected, and when I say we, people of this hue and considerably darker than I, are expected at the ready to give this man grace, give this man space, and have some sort of understanding as to what Tourette syndrome is, as if we are ignorant by default. The man that shouted the N-word towards these two black men on stage is an activist of some degree for those that suffer from Tourette's. This man has had documentaries made, was there actually in the room on behalf of a movie that was up for multiple awards, I believe, based on him and his life. Pretty admirable stuff, right? Activism is great. Scottish people, for the most part, can be pretty exciting. The history. So now that I've explained that, gave credit, um, listed this man's credentials or reason for being there. All, for the most part, very positive things. Here's where we take a turn. So, when you think of Tourette's syndrome, there are multiple examples. You have a situation where a person is out here, and it could be this syndrome could be a reflection of unchecked trauma, could be a reflection of a lot of unchecked things that manifest in almost like a chemical electric ways. You know what I mean? For as long as I've been on this earth, we learn not to be reactive to it. We've learned not to be combative or reactive or even match energies, right? At the very same time, we are in the last 10 or so years, a lot of us that have aged considerably have looked around, and we have also experienced multiple examples, from different levels, social, culturally, state, federal, even at the presidential level, what racism looks like. And on the other side of that, there is this thing called privilege. In the same vein that a party is offended, when a non-person of color or a non-black person or a non-black demographic, religious, cultural community is offended by a slight, there is no space, there is no grace, no call for understanding when the target is a black person. Kyrie Irving, his situation is a prime example. That's the first person I thought about when it came to this kind of thing. Here we have, out in the open, in public, two black men, professional artists with extensive careers individually, who in the past calendar year have participated, taken part in, and have been revered worlds over for their roles in a movie called Sinners. Now, on the surface, Sinners is a movie that is very entertaining, very engrossing, very appealing to the eyes. For those of us that got it the first time, there are a lot of generational references, historical references, and concepts in the movie that harken back to the days of black creation, black music, black people that create those music, identified, targeted, and and sacrificed for supremacy, pillage of creativity, pillage of spirituality, and pillage of identity. The most prominent example is music, and the line upon which we have had to toe the line between that which we love, which is music and creativity, and that which we hold sacred to ourselves, which is spirituality and the soul. So here you have all those themes, all those layers in this movie. Very rich, very diverse, and very poignant. You know, a movie of this caliber comes along once every 10 or 15 years if done right. And we're at a point right now where we realize and we acknowledge two things. One, that Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan are literally the walking torchbearers from Denzel Washington and Spike Lee. Two, we're aware that Ryan Coogler is the embodiment and the personification of not looking for a handout or not leaning into the system and playing their game. I touched on the podcast recently, probably 2 or 3 episodes ago, about how the moment that Ryan Coogler decided not to be part of a voting committee, i.e., one of the major facets of the industry, that he's successfully managed to stay independent and in some ways politically pissed a lot of people off. But he never let that get in his way. He took his time, didn't have to stick to a certain timetable of releases, is solely and individually responsible for the writing, the screenplay, the production, and the direction of all of his movies. And he always sticks with the same leading man, that's Michael B. Jordan. So with all of that in play, with all of the expectations not only met, but exceeded. Not only that, you have a multitude of actors and actresses from varying stages of life in this movie. Delroy Lindo, who has been a force for almost 6 decades, finally getting an Oscar nomination. Michael B. Jordan getting nominated as a leading man. After years and years of people believing that he's not a good actor and he's very safe socially. Now, in this age of social media, he is not in any trouble. He is not falling off the club. He is pretty regular. And because he doesn't have a perceived edge, he is not deemed attractive to most. Delroy Lindo, who has been on our screens for the better part of the last 40 years, finally getting the recognition, but having a pretty stellar career, a list of credits, and fine acting roles, but never, for whatever reason, not part of the same discussion when it comes to a Denzel or a Samuel or a Lawrence Fishburne. Never in those same kind of conversations. Still very much a believer that they only let so many of us in the door at the same time. Here we are. This movie, Sinners, is up for a lot of awards. The cast, multiple categories, leading, supporting. Haven't seen anything like this with the black film in a long ass time, right? After rounding out a year, a full calendar year of this movie being out, making a lot of money on an independent film at that, because Ryan Coogler is an independent filmmaker. We get to this point, we had a great year, and out of this entire ceremony, you get called the N-word. So now that we brought it back to the topic at hand in this video, I think it's very important that we identify and we acknowledge two things. That I just went over a fine example of privilege in this world. How the same grace and space that we're expected to give is not given to us, because this man is an activist, this man has a condition, this man has all these kind of things. It's similar in vein of, the narrative. The narrative is the prominent thing, and it's curated in the way to make others feel sorry for a white person. Even though we know where that word comes from, or a lot of us should know where that word comes from, it is not tied to a condition. It is not tied to a syndrome. It is not tied to anything that requires understanding. Let's just knock that out the way. Secondly, the syndrome itself, again, absurd, nonsensical moments of words. It's like verbal flashing, and then they come back to, and then they go on about their day. Never in the history of my life on this earth has a person with Tourette's said the N-word. Much less said the N-word directly towards two black men at the podium. Hard stop. The full word didn't stop at some point. Said it audibly loud enough that everybody heard. At no point during the rest of the evening leading up to that was anything abhorrently similar and disgusting said to other folks that came out on stage to the podium to present an award, list the nominees, and it was a very diverse year. Secondly, or that's probably points 3.5. There are still facets of Europe, still, some European cultures that have not left the 15th century. Hell, I'll be even a little bit more generous. The 16th, 17th century. There are some facets in Europe that still look at us as that word. And trust and believe, this has nothing to do with, and you can't excuse it away with, well, I don't see them, or I don't see color. You must get a shitload of traffic tickets. Like any kind of excuse that they can come up with as to that word, the use of that word, the shock or the awe or the amazement when they see one of us in the room. There's a lot of history behind that word, and that's not just in this country. You got to remember, back back when we were, in Africa, you got to remember a lot of slavery and Jim Crow and the KKK came from Europeans. Like, who do you think was driving those ships and saw us that way? And you could get in the comments and say, oh, that was 500 years ago. You should stop playing the race card. Well, you should stop dealing the cards to us. Having Tourette's or having some kind of condition does not negate you from that word and all that it means. There are a lot of people out here that have this tendency to justify their bad behavior and their verbal assholeness with some condition. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have that. It's this that's making me say that. No. And I heard him say it. And they said that he left not too long after that. Well, okay. So you were aware that you said it. You were aware that you offended a lot of people. At some point, folks are just tired and, not only exhausted by living and breathing as Black people, but exhausted by this expectation that we're not supposed to take it personal when we all know that people know exactly what they're doing. The N-word is not a tick. Saying the N-word directly to Black people, that's not a tick. That's a representation of what y'all have been acting like, treating us like, even with our successes, and probably in spite of. It's not so convenient. I mean, obviously, given the timing upon which he did it. And the Bafta people, the production or whatever, y'all are pretty, it's very telling for y'all to leave that in because that wasn't a live premiere. That was already taped or it was streaming or something different. Y'all have y'all finger over that button or you have the ability to keep the evening flowing, but y'all let that fly. Y'all let that fly. So y'all are a party to that. But here you have yet again another reminder that even with your success and all that you've accomplished with a Black-led movie, a cast that's predominantly African American, that one word is lodged towards two of the castmates of that movie. And that they weren't even up there, I think, to present anything related to the movie, Sinners. Like, I think the sooner we get to acknowledging and realizing that this shock and this surprise that Black people, Black creatives are also just as marketable, if not probably the most marketable and profitable entity across multiple industries, media, music, movies, television shows, streaming shows, and y'all can't take it. It's the disgust, the shock, the awe, the surprise, the antithesis rants that y'all go on that shows y'all hands every time. Baby, that's not a tick. That man been waiting to say that since he was in his 20s. And y'all keep allowing people. Y'all keep giving it a pass. Not realizing that it makes you also a party to it. The embarrassment should have been just as public as him freely saying the N word at a very fine event, a fine gala. Ellen Cummings, who's also Scottish, missed me with the bullshit. Y'all should have brought his ass up on stage to apologize to everybody in front of the camera, especially the Delroy, Lindo, and Michael B. Jordan. You know, people, it's going to take, here's what I know. If you're tired of fucking around and finding out, it is just a matter of time before we start matching your energy for you to get where we're coming from. The embarrassment and the humiliation should just be as public as the disrespect. Just because you suffer from Tourette syndrome since you were 25, which, by the way, has allowed you a lot of opportunities. Because there are a lot of people that suffer from Tourette syndrome and get a movie or a documentary. You get to go around and benefit financially from your syndrome and your condition and your job being an activist. And that's great. That's great. You know, the more awareness and the more education about these kind of syndromes to the masses, the better. But don't get cute. Don't get cute. Michael J. Fox has suffered from Parkinson's most of his adult life, most of his life on Earth. Those twitches and those ticks, that man's never said the N word. Just saying, like, we can be on here all day listing all the conditions in parallel, never a single example with other folks with other conditions saying the N word. Too comfortable. Too comfortable. And the reason why is because y'all come to defend and protect. No. You're on this earth just as we are. Absolutely not. So it's still fuck John Davison. And fuck the industry or anybody that is allowing that to happen. And expecting the rest of us to be understanding. Don't apologize for him. Don't apologize for another man. And stop looking to us to stop taking it personal. If the correction is not from within, you're going to do without. Just another case of privilege because like I said, I could go on a little bit more, but I know y'all had to get to work and stuff and do y'all thing, but you get no space with me. 2020 motherfucking 6. I mean, if he is as able to move about freely just saying that word, oh, I bet he is a riot at the dinner table. Alan Cummings, you probably don't know that man any better than anybody else. You just stick to acting like they want us to stick to playing basketball. So, what else is going on? If you're tired of this shit happening, we are like exhausted to death because what is it about us doing our thing and getting the acclaim and getting the revenue as an independent film, independent cast? That's such a threat to y'all. Yeah, I mean, Michael B. Jordan, Delroy Lindo, Ryan Coogler, I'm sure they took it to the chin. Very, very professional, as we tend to be. Going on with the evening and going on to our next role. Meanwhile, this guy, I mean, he shouldn't have been able to get off that easy. I mean, after all, if the shoe was on the other foot, you wouldn't let us get off easy. Oh, we'd have to pay fines, child. Despite all the positive credentials and all the work we're doing in the community and all the philanthropic things, now we got to pay fines while being harassed at our job. Sounds like inequality to me. So, I think I've said all I'm going to say. John Davidson, still fuck you. Sinners are still the best. Alan Cummings, stick to acting. And we still have to take to the chin and smile, even with possibly the greatest film and the greatest successful film of the last 5 or 10 years. Still being called the N-word. Isn't that crazy? I miss Fox the RFU's podcast. It's been real. I'm going to get up off of here and continue to watch the rest of this Top Model Netflix documentary. And I will catch you guys next time. I will be dropping a new episode of the RFU's podcast, Season 7, Episode 26, today. So wherever you get your podcast, go check that out. And I will catch you guys later. Peace. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast.